Hello there and welcome back to the channel. So I had a question in our comments section. Someone was asking about string gauges and what real difference they make to the banjo. And so I thought I'd do a quick video on it just to explain. So essentially the string gauge is the thickness of your string. So you have what's considered heavy, medium and light strings in gauges. What I'm using here, I would consider them probably a medium set. So each string will have sort of a range of where you expect it to be light, heavy and medium. For example, on my E string is an 11. Now I guess this is kind of medium. A light would be a 9 or a 10 and a heavy would be anything from a 12 to a 13. My A string is an 18, it's wound. A lighter A string would be a 16, a heavy would be a 20. My D string is usually a 24. I think I've got a 26 on here because it's the only string I could get. A heavy string would go up to a 28 and a light would go down to a 22. And I have a 36 on my A. It's a G, but I use it as an A. Now, that's kind of a heavy string. It's heavier than what I usually use. I normally like a 34. Anything up to a 40 would be heavy. So a 36, 38 or a 40 would be the heavy version. And down to a 32 or even a 30 would be considered light. Now I'm talking about light, medium and heavy strings. What does that really mean? Well, it's about how hard and how much pressure you have to put on the plectrum to get the string to sound comfortably. So sometimes when you're playing and you're going for some trebles or triplets, you might miss them. This could be a sign that your strings are too hard. Could also be bad technique. There's a few possibilities. So that's one of the things. It's good to get medium to light strings when you're starting out because it will make the instrument easier to play. There also isn't so much tension between the neck and along the fingerboard, which means when you're pressing the strings down, it won't take as much effort and energy to press those strings to the fingerboard. You'll know when they're really heavy strings, they'll leave lines across your fingers and they're quite hard to push down, and eventually they will wear out your fingers. You will be physically tired and sometimes in pain from pressing the strings down. If that's what you're experiencing, then your strings are too heavy. The advantages of heavy strings is they can sometimes be louder. They can also be less susceptible to going out of tune through things like temperature change, etc., and environmental aspects. And also they're quite sturdy. A lighter string, it's more likely to go out of tune and it's more likely to snap, especially the high E's. Like a 9 or a 10 on an E, it could break on you. So it's good to have something more medium, which is what I've kind of gone for here. And the tone's nice. Light strings will have a weaker tone and might be slightly quieter, whereas your heavy strings would obviously be the reverse. So a medium set of strings is kind of, I think it's a happy medium. Happy medium. I think it's a good middle ground for getting a nice tone out of your instrument. They're nice and ringy and they're nice and warm, and I like my strings like that. Don't spend too much time worrying about the gauges when you're just starting out. You can just pick up some standard banjo strings from your music shop, or if you're struggling, just go and grab single guitar strings and string them up with those. It'll make no difference. As long as your bridge can take the ball ends. My bridge here, you can't see it from that distance, but it has little nodules which you can put the loop ends on, or you can fit the ball ends of the string in between. If you go over to my how to string your tenor banjo video, which I'll link on screen now, it shows you how to do that in the video. Really, I would recommend, I always just buy single guitar strings. They sound great, they're cheap, and they're far more readily available than banjo strings. Not quite as fiddly as loop ends either. So I use a 34 on what you would call the G string, but I tune up to an A. A 24 on my D, an 18 wound on my A, and an 11 on my E. And the wound on the A is actually very important. If you get a plain string, it just doesn't sound nice. It's not comfortable to play, but it being wound, it's far better. What does wound mean and what's a plain string? So the E is a plain string, and if you run your finger up it, the string is smooth. It's just one solid piece of metal going along. A wound string is a piece of metal core and the bronze of the string is wrapped around it, and that's called wound. These are generally much nicer in tone. They have a bit more kind of, I don't know, a bit more body, there's something, they're kind of scratchy, and that can, that's difficult, but it does kind of come out in the playing and you can hear it. You can definitely feel it when you're playing them. I hate playing on plain strings when the A is plain. Ugh, can't stand it at all. So I would definitely recommend getting an 18 wound for your A, and you probably won't get a wound A in anything less than 18. Maybe you'd have to go to a 19. Anyway, that's everything about the gauges. Like the video if you like the video. Please subscribe, and if there's anything else you'd like us to cover on the channel, just drop us a comment below. Thanks very much.